Locally, there's a group practice called Oral Surgery, and they like to hold events all the time. They started, I think, 2 years ago. It was the Hobbs Project. And so around March, they would do just like conventions where it was just supporting women in dentistry. They had seen the marketing we were doing with Studio 88. And so we were recognized by one of the people in marketing at Oral Surgery. And so they asked me to come speak at that event. And it was for Lucy Hobbs. I don't know if a lot of people know about her, but yeah, I was just so lucky that I was able to be part of that, event. And that's how I actually heard about her.
All right, well, welcome to episode 2 of the Story Project, guys. And thank you so much for tuning in and just listening and watching wherever you are right now. I am so thrilled and honored to introduce you to a very special guest of mine, Dr. Denise Kua. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Well, okay. I feel like we've been friends for years, but actually we've never really met in person.
I don't think we've ever talked like this either. We've never spoken.
Yeah.
But we're friends.
There's something to be said for online interactions. I'm a huge believer that you can actually build real relationships with people. So tell us, do you have any hobbies? What do you do? What do you do for fun?
Oh God. Well, I think that answer changes depending where I was in my life.
Yeah.
And I think now, having a practice, I don't think there is any real hobby besides sleeping and recharging for the following week. And then on top of that, with COVID, we can't go anywhere.
Well, hey, hobbies. I love the sleeping thing. I'm a huge fan of sleeping. And I think I actually think it could be a hobby. I know.
Okay.
Oh, for sure.
All right, good.
I think we're all trying to improve our sleep, and when you get a good night's rest, it is extraordinary what it does for your mental health, your physical health the following day. So now for me, just trying to get a good night's sleep is everything.
Yeah. I think that's when I know I have a good weekend. Mm-hmm. If I have uninterrupted sleep and then no one asks to make plans, no one talks to me for the whole weekend. That's my hobby. I just want to sit in silence.
Well, you're with people all day long, so I can completely understand that. Okay, name one fun fact about you that probably most people don't know.
Yeah, I think this is my go-to one. But yeah, I used to work at Disneyland. As a cast member, I worked at attractions in Fantasyland. And so I was basically a ride operator / crowd control. So I did Peter Pan, teacups, Ferris wheel, the carousel, and I can name them all the rides in Fantasyland. And so I think, that's one of those things where it just really, really shaped who I was as a dentist as well. But anyways, yeah, that's my fun fact. I would say I'm a Disney lover, Disney fanatic. Was a previous cast member, but I also hope to retire and become one again. That's my goal, long-term goal.
That'll be your retirement plan, right? You'll retire,
yes,
but then go back to Disney.
Yeah, no, I'll be back. That's what I was I'll be back here. I really didn't want to leave, and I had to leave because I got accepted to dental school. Oh. And so I was all right, guys, I have to go do a real thing now. But honestly, I saw so many retired people working, a lot of them just just hanging out. And I don't know, I thought it was such a good company to work for. And I know it's a weird retirement goal, but I'm going to go back. I'll see you there.
Okay. Yeah. Disney makes everybody happy. So I think that's a great retirement goal. I love that.
Yes.
Well, I want to kind of segue into a conversation with you about being a woman in dentistry. I had mentioned March is International Women's Month. March 8th is the actual International Women's Day. And it's just a really cool global day celebrating, all things women. And so
Yes.
I think that it would be just completely appropriate to kind of just, dive into some of these conversations you and I have had behind the scenes, and we've had multiple ones just about gender biases and inequality in dentistry towards women. I wanted to briefly, this is for all of you history nerds, but I do love some good data, and I do love a really good story. Okay, so Lucy's story. So Lucy Hobbs Taylor, she was the first American woman to earn a degree in dentistry. And, because I'm not a dentist and I didn't study dentistry, this was, I think a couple of years ago, I found her story. I was like, whoa, it kind of blew me away because she had to do it in secrecy. And so this was back in 1865. She was denied entry into I think it's the Eclectic College of Medicine because she was a woman. And then she obtained her dental education from the dean of the Ohio College of Dental Surgery privately. She ventured out on her own, opened a practice in Cincinnati in 1861, which became very successful. And then finally, the Iowa State Dental Society granted her membership, stating, "The profession has nothing in its pursuits foreign to the instincts of women." She goes on to, receive her degree from Ohio College of Dental Surgery. And they talk about how she was a powerful lady. And of course, she had to have been, right?
Yes.
This pioneer, advocator, and, educator. And so, what I also love, I do love this a lot, but it's the article I was reading said that she also trained her husband to become a dentist.
Oh, yes.
That was a cool thing, fun fact there. But
yes.
So by the turn of the 20th century, then there were 1,000 female dentists. And I don't know, I just thought her story was pretty cool, pretty extraordinary. Was that a story that you ever heard or that is ever talked about?
So I actually did hear about Lucy Hobbs. It's because, I didn't hear about before then, but so locally there's I guess a group practice called Austin Oral Surgery, and they like to hold events all the time. And it's funny that you talked about her. So they started, I think 2 years ago, it was the Lucy Hobbs Project. And so around March, they would do just like conventions where it was just supporting women in dentistry. And so I was really fortunate. I was actually able to speak on that. It was like the year we opened, I think it's like in 2019. And they had seen the marketing we were doing with Studio 88. And we had one of our first, I think, Facebook Lives with our office tour. We got 15,000 views because we were just sharing it everywhere. And so we were recognized by one of the people in marketing at Austin Oral Surgery. And so they asked me to come speak at that event. And it was for Lucy Hobbs. And I didn't know who she was until that event. And so the night before, we had a dinner where we kind of went over her and her life and everything. And so I don't know if a lot of people know about her, but yeah, I was just so lucky that I was able to be part of that, event. And that's how I actually heard about her.
Oh, cool. That is amazing.
Yeah. So they were honoring just also people that we knew that were vendors, just all women. And so it was really, really good.
That's awesome. Well, so she kind of started, the path for women in dentistry. And but the truth is there are some systemic issues and biases that run deep that I feel that we need to address. And I wanted to get your perspective on that and ask you just about your real life experiences. And as a female boss, an entrepreneur, and a startup practice owner, what types of gender biases on the whole have you experienced? And I know you kind of earlier were mentioning, reps and maybe other doctors, or when you the course. I don't know if there's anything, beyond that you've experienced specifically.
I would say, I mean, like it was even before, being a practice owner. I think, just being a female dentist for some reason, I don't know why it's still happening today. But so before I opened my practice, I was working for a DSO, and I was like really driven to get like promoted. I think they had a really great model where they actually had like positions besides being an associate. You're like lead dentist, a dental director, where at that point you were mentoring, and then also giving like I guess second opinions on treatment plans, things like that. I know like a lot of people aren't a fan of that, but that was their structure. And so I probably like 2 years out of school, I got like the dental director position. And so I was basically mentoring, I guess, other doctors that, were new to the practice, but they were practicing, much longer than I was. And there was one instance in particular where there was a male doctor. I think he was probably practicing 5 years longer than I was. So, I mean, I don't blame him, but definitely he was doing a lot of things because he felt that, I don't know, I felt, me personally, like I felt like he was talking down to me because I was a woman. And, when, I was letting him know about, company policies and things like that, like he would passively aggressive, like he would throw his like dirty mask and gloves onto my personal belongings. Like he was doing a lot of things where, I feel like when he would talk to other like dental associate colleagues that were male, like they weren't being treated the way I was. And so like, that's like, part of like the time where I realized like, this is like an ongoing problem where, it started off like, when I told you when the patients were saying that like, they were squeezing my arm and trying to see if I was strong enough to do a procedure. Then I realized at that point, it was also within the doctors themselves, and, I love all the doctors I work with and everything, but like, it's not just with patients, it's with the doctors too. And then obviously if the doctors, see their fellow dental associate, females this way, like more so the patients will too. So I think it comes from, within our community to actually stop that problem. And I don't know why it's a problem because there's so many female dentists already, it's like, this is not like the time of Lucy Hobbs. Like we've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
But, this is very recently. And so, luckily, like I'm in my startup with my husband, like he'll never do that to me. But then, then it goes into the things of like, the reps where, when they come in and they're like, what do you think about this handpiece? But they won't look at me. They'll look at him the whole time. And like, I'll have questions and they'll like kind of put me off. And so it's like, it's disheartening because it's like, I was just as much a part of this as he was. And I have just as much of a voice as he is in this decision. And they don't realize like, I have a lot of weight if we're going to purchase this thing or not. So, but like, even to this day, it's like, no, like I don't get looked at in that way. Or like, people come in and like, yeah, like I'll be there and like, oh yeah, tell your doctor about this CE. And it's like, no, it's me, or we'll go to CEs together. And it's like, like I'm never approached for anything. I don't know. It's just one of those things that like I've come to terms with. It is what it is. But at the same time, I would tell most people like don't let that define you either, but unfortunately it's still there.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting you mentioned there are so many female dentists. The ADA, here's a fun stat, but 65.5% of all dentists are male, and then 34.34.5 are female. But that statistic has grown from the past 20 years. Jumped from in 2001, it was only 16% of dentists were female. And so 20 years later, it's taken us that long to get that percentage up to 34.5%. It's headed in the right direction,
Right.
Well, and anytime we're faced with, there was a lot of crazy that went on last year, like in our world, pandemic, politically, I mean, on so many levels, just all of us personally. What do you do? So when you're in that situation with a male dentist or a guy in general speaks down to you or makes an assumption about you, is there a good way or, is there a good way to handle that situation? And is there a bad way?
That's tough. I think it's hard because I think, depending on who you are as a person, you're going to want to handle it differently. And I think you won't be satisfied until you want to handle it the way you want to handle it. And so I don't think there's a good answer. I would say, I mean, for me, like I am different where I'm very good at concealing what I really feel because I'm very, I guess, cautious about the repercussions of what will come out of my mouth. Like, how will this hurt me long term? Like, I don't know, before I say something, I don't know, I guess I've always been this way because I'm a 7. I just want to avoid things like I calculate, like, if I try A, B, C, D, E, F, G, which one of these options, like I literally, like I play all of it in my head before something comes out of my mouth. And then so.
Risk assessment.
Yes, exactly. So like I like calculate, I don't know how, like if somehow time stops or maybe I'm just standing there looking out in the distance, but like for some reason, all of these things go in my head before like something comes out of my mouth. And so for me, like, you know, a lot of it has to do with like, well, the way I handle it is like, what's more important? Is it important to use my energy on, you know, fighting back, like making that person feel, you know, bad for what he did? Or like, you know, overall, is it better for me to come out professionally and not lose my job or things like that, you know? And so, you know, I realized a lot of that like comes from, you know, I'm very careful where I expend my energy, I guess you could say. And that I like in my head, I feel like that person was not worth my energy. So I don't want to give him any more. Like he already took a lot from me. And so that's how I decide what I need to do at that moment is like, how do I do this where I benefit from it? And I walk out benefiting from it. And I know that like, you know, whatever it is, like that person, you know, said to me or, you know, anything like they've already made up their mind about me. Like I'm not trying to change that. And it's like, how do I walk away from this where I can just be fine? Because I know if I like, you know, try to instigate and prolong this conversation with said person, that it's not going to give me any peace. And so it's just going to fuel it. Right. So that's how I handle things anyways. It's just like, you know, what will serve me more? Like, and that doesn't for me. And some people, it serves them. Like, if I can just hit you, you know, like, like I would be like in heaven. Right. And so, and then I don't feel anything. Yeah.
I've never hit.
I mean, I probably would if I could fight. No, I just like, and that's the thing too. Like, I know my strengths, know your strengths.
In spite of all the hills that women in dentistry have to climb and the mindsets to overcome, tell all of our female listeners and viewers now, like, why is it worth it to be a woman in dentistry? Why is it worth it to pursue that profession if you feel that it's your calling?
See, why is it worth it? Well, I think just anything in general, like if that's your passion, if that's your dream, it's worth it, right? Because for some, dentistry might not be worth it. But I think for me, speaking personally, it's like, you know, the fact that you have so many avenues to be successful, you know, I think dentistry is a great way to exercise not just your love for dentistry, but your passion for, marketing and, you know, influencing and design. So if anyone's ever questioning if dentistry is for them, if you love people and you just like love, you know, being a therapist and interacting all the time, you know, besides the dentistry, like it's a great profession to be in. You know, don't take any of the things I said before about like, you know, just being put down. Like, no, it happens, but it doesn't mean that, you know, you can't excel.
One of my favorite movies of all time is The Holiday. Have you ever seen that?
Oh my gosh. So I was reading about that. So I loved that movie so much, but I don't know why I don't remember most about it. Like, I remember I loved it enough and I bought the DVD back in the day, like a long, long time ago, but I love that movie. Yeah.
So it's with Jude Law, Kate Winslet, Cameron Diaz, and of course, Jack Black. Okay. So my favorite scene in the movie is when Arthur Abbott, who's an older gentleman and former, you know, like a retired Hollywood star, has dinner with Iris and consults with her on a really terrible recent breakup. And I'm going to quote him, but he says, Arthur says, he let you go. This is not a hard one to figure out, Iris. In the movies, we have leading ladies and we have the best friend. you, I can tell, are a leading lady, but for some reason you are behaving like the best friend. And I know we're not talking about like breakups and all of that kind of stuff, but we are talking about, I want this podcast to be an encouragement to women that are in dentistry or are considering, starting their own practice, to lean in fully to who they are, to kind of take that step forward and not shrink back, to become the leading lady of your own life. And that line just speaks to me at my core. You can write 15 different articles about that, I think. And I think that really playing a lead role in our own lives begins with finding clarity around who we are. And we've talked about women playing second fiddle or shrinking back. And, I know often I've been told, you talk too much. You need to speak like in bullet points. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I like to speak in paragraphs.
Yeah, me too. I think that's why we're going to have like a second part.
I know. All the guys at EDA will be like, you got to split this one up. It's going to be part 1 and part 2. And that's fine. Totally great. But to all the lovely ladies that are leading the way and pioneering a new path in dentistry, I would encourage you, remind your brain and those voices of nonsense that this world needs you. Dentistry needs you, not just part of you, but all of you. And I just wanted, lastly, Dr. Kua, to ask you if you could say one thing to any female dentist or female associates, even a female team member struggling to be the real authentic version of who they are, what would you say?
Well, I think just going with what you're saying, I think it's crazy that I just realized that we try to mute ourselves, right? Because like people don't like how the way we talk or just everything that comes out. And then you have to realize too, especially in dentistry, like women have teeth too, right? So you're not just speaking towards like, just the male gender when you are trying to, I guess, be successful. Like your voice is needed, right? And you imagine how many people that you'll impact just being who you are. And I think, if you let, just people dictate the dentist you're going to be, you're going to see the same cookie cutter dentist all the time. And who knows, like just being yourself, you'll be so innovative and don't let like the fear of, rejection and like people will love the fact that you're authentic. And I think there's so many like authentic dentists out there that I follow and love that you're gonna probably interview. I've seen on your list already. And so, and I think they are successful because they're fearless. And I think big thing to take away, I would say, just be fearless, because as a 7, I know that there's only one life to live. And so I feel like if you have such a short time on this earth, like who cares? Like, don't care. Who cares? Like, people will love your authenticness. So be authentic and be fearless. I think that's what I would say.
Oh, that gets me. It's my favorite word, fearless. That's like my 2021 word. It was my 2020 word. And because this year is turning out like this, it's just, I'm carrying it over.
This is now like your whole life. I just gotta be fearless.
Yes, definitely. Dr. Kua, I cannot thank you enough for just taking the time to share your story and your heart and just being authentic with us.
I love you, Joanna.
This is our first really full conversation. And
I know.
I definitely want to tell everybody how they can follow you on social. What's the best place to do that?
Probably the most would be our practice Instagram page. So at Perch_dentistry. I also have an Instagram account at DKua, but I would say that at Perch_dentistry is more fun.
Well, they're both amazing feeds. You'll follow Perch Dentistry right now. A huge thank you to just everybody who's supporting this project and all the women. I promise I will have a couple guys on this every year. No, I'm kidding. I'm sort of kidding, but just a huge thank you for everybody who watched this episode, or if you're listening to the audio version. I can't thank you enough just for hanging out with us today. All year, we're going to continue to dive into amazing stories of inspiring people who happen to be dentists. So I can't wait to continue to share them with you all. Thank you, Dr. Denise Kua. You are amazing.
Oh, you're amazing too. Love you, love you, love you.
Hey guys, that is a wrap.